So happy to welcome back to the program MBTA General Manager Steve Poftak for an update on how the T is coping during these interesting times. How are you, Mr. Poftak?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Really wanted to have a chance to touch base with you and kind of get an update from the past year and a half last we talked and how things have changed with the T since then. What's new and exciting?
Obviously we've gone through, like everyone else, just an unbelievable year, right? We surely could not have foreseen this 18 months ago, where we've had to adapt to, obviously the changes in public health standards, but also changes in our ridership, big decline in ridership, as well as a welcome influx of federal assistance. And we are still working through what is the right amount of service to get out there and how quickly can we get service out to the customers who depend on us.
Right. That was kind of the main reason I wanted to chat today, was to let folks know how the services here in Quincy and on the South Shore have changed.
Sure. We in some cases, we have, we've reduced the frequency of service, but we are also adding service in places that need it. For instance, on the 216 and the 238 bus, we are actually providing more service than we did pre-COVID, because those are routes where we've seen durable ridership throughout the year.
You actually took some heat, as you well know, from Congressman Lynch and others regarding the service cuts, and then responded accordingly. Do you think that was an appropriate criticism?
I think we learned a lot from the experience. The MBTA is a huge organization. We began planning in the fall before additional rounds of federal stimulus money came in. And I think, our initial instinct was to figure out how we could make that federal money last for as long as we could. In the discussion, not only with Congressman Lynch and with other people, they made it clear that this federal stimulus money was really intended to bring service back now, and we'll address some of these future challenges in the future. So, as best the T can do, we have pivoted to a stance of adding back as much service as we can and as quickly as possible. So, we just put advertisements out on the street. We are hiring bus operators. We are hiring rail motor persons. We're hiring bus instructors so we can train these operators. We are really working hard to get back to full service on both rail and bus. And we're also moving service around to make sure that we're providing a high level of service to the customers who need us.
I'm sure in the back of your mind is it sustainable in the long run? What is the future of public transportation post-pandemic going to look like, and how do you serve that population, right?
Yes. I think the good news is we surely have enough funding with the 3 rounds of federal stimulus. We have enough funding to take us through not only next fiscal year, but the fiscal year after that. I think, once you get out into fiscal year 24 and 25, there are some challenges there. And I think everyone I've talked to, including the congressional delegation, acknowledges that there are some challenges, but we do have 2 years of lead time to begin addressing those challenges. We also have 2 years of lead time to figure out what is the appropriate level of service we should be providing. There's going to be changes. We already see it. The T's primary business used to be serving 2 big peaks built around the 9-to-5 workday. What we see now is much different. The peaks are smaller, they're broader, and they're earlier, which suggests to me that you've got some people in 9-to-5 jobs who are not going in every day. You have people in other jobs, for instance, healthcare and construction, who are not working a 9-to-5 schedule, but need the T to be there for them. So we have a couple of years to learn what our customers need from us.
It'd be interesting to see how the work from home scenario impacts public transportation, certainly, and in particular, how it will impact lower socioeconomic groups. Do you anticipate, adapting to their needs? They are the ones most likely to have to still get up, get out, and go into a place of work.
Yeah, we've been thinking about how we adjust our schedule. As I kind of started to develop, building around the 9-to-5 peak doesn't necessarily make sense anymore, when some of those folks are either will be working remotely, or they'll be working a hybrid schedule where, instead of going in 5 days a week, they may be going in 2 to 3. but also thinking about what other customers need. We are certainly seeing demand in the middle of the afternoon. We're seeing demand early in the morning. So we are adjusting our schedules accordingly.
Yeah. Do you anticipate changes in the rate structure going forward?
Right now, no. In terms of changing fares, no, we don't anticipate changing fares. Right now, one of the provisions of a measure that the control board passed is that we are limited in doing fare increases until we get ridership back to previous levels.
Okay. Also, with the commuter rail, do you anticipate an expanded need for that in the future as white collar workers kind of move further away from the metropolitan area?
We've actually just put in place on April 5th a new set of schedules on commuter rail, and we think this is, and we're trying to move away from. I'm hardwired to say commuter rail. We're calling it regional rail.
Okay.
Because it's not built around the 9 to 5 peak. It's built around consistent service all day long across the system. So, in the case of the station closest to me, I have regular service. I have regular outbound service on the hour. So there's in the afternoon, there's a 4 o'clock train, a 5 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and so forth. So the train will be arriving at a consistent time throughout the day, and it will run throughout the day. And, we think this is in keeping with people having different travel patterns, and also people traveling in and out of the core, not necessarily around a 9 to 5 schedule, but maybe going in town for a meeting or two and then coming out. So we think we have what is the beginning of the right schedule on commuter rail, but we'll be adapting that as we go, of course.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, being here in Quincy, what the status of the ferries is now and where you see that going in the future.
Right now we are going to be adding ferry service back. This doesn't directly answer your question, but just in the interest of full disclosure, we will be restarting the Charlestown ferry. We're currently in talks with our operator, Boston Harbor Cruises, to figure out the best way to do that. We will be adding additional service to Hingham and Hull as well. I know it has been an item of interest for the Quincy community to expand ferry service. That is a conversation we would like to engage in. I think there's an element of planning that is still going on at the Mass Department of Transportation about what the ferry service should look like in the future. We'd like to participate in that conversation and see where it goes.
Have you been talking to your colleagues in other major metropolitan cities to find out how they are adjusting and planning for the future as well?
Yes, and I think they've all faced similar challenges. I think we've all centered our work around keeping our workforce and keeping our customers safe. As science evolves, I think we will evolve what tactics we're using. They're also dealing with some of the same issues. Workforce availability. We have more people out. The T still has around on any given day right now about 40 active COVID cases where we don't have employees available. So they're dealing with that as well. They're also dealing with the challenges of how do you reallocate service to the places that where people need it. The T took the approach of we monitor crowding on our buses very closely, and we've adjusted our routes accordingly. That's why the two routes I talked about, the 216 and the 238, have more service than they did pre-COVID because of people's expectations around greater social distancing on the buses. So, most of the other authorities I talked to we're all sort of dealing with the same basket of issues. And also grappling with more of the existential question of how many people will come back, and then what is the solution from a revenue perspective in the long run. In the short run, the federal stimulus really has played an essential role, but in the long run, those are all issues we're going to have to grapple with.
We talk about a couple of local issues. The garage renovation projects at Quincy, Adams, and Braintree are coming to fruition. Yes.
Yes, both garages will be open, I believe, on April 20th. which I am thankful. Those projects, I served before I was general manager. I served on the Fiscal and Management Control Board starting in 2015, and I feel like these projects have been around since then at least. One of the challenges I gave to my capital team early on was, can we somehow accelerate work on this? It may not feel like it's been accelerated, but we have been able to take it to fruition. There still will be some ongoing construction, but there will be hundreds of additional parking spots available. And, I'm glad to get that project underway.
Also, what is the status of the new orange and red line cars?
Those cars were taken out of service after a derailment last month. We are still in the process of testing each one of the individual components, which is not a simple process. So we anticipate that testing is going to take a few additional weeks, as well as overall, obviously we are not hitting the delivery schedule for those cars the way we wanted to. So we continue to work. With CRC, the manufacturer who has a location out in Springfield. We continue to work with them to get back on schedule. We really want to get those cars in service. The customers who've been able to catch it, I think, are so excited to see what a brand new car looks like. I mean, you're essentially getting 30 years of progress, stepping off one of the older cars, stepping onto one of the new cars. So we'd like to get those out as soon as possible.
Sure. Can you bring us up to date on the status of the project at the North Quincy T station? From an outsider looking in, it looks quite impressive.
Yes, and that project should be, obviously that's not directly a T project, but I believe that project is in the very late stages of wrapping up. So hopefully, I'm hopeful that that's an important amenity for our customers, and obviously will be helpful to us. It did make the path of travel to and from the station a little circuitous. So happy to see that coming to resolution as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it gives you a built-in audience, right? Built-in customers.
Yeah, we're happy to serve them. So,
are you still in discussions regarding the Quincy Center Station? I know there's hopes at least for a major renovation there.
Yes, we're hopeful for a major renovation. We've consulted extensively with the city on that. I think COVID has not been helpful in moving that along. So we do continue to be in active discussions on that, but I don't have any sort of specific progress milestones to report here.
Okay. I do know that the Fiscal Management Control Board approved the Lowe's home improvement store site for a new maintenance facility. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. They've approved that. We are still working to put together, and I think we will. I have every expectation we'll succeed in this year's capital budget in identifying full funding for the construction of that facility. We anticipate that would go under construction in 2022. And be finished by 2024. The fantastic advance that will come from that facility is we will be able to use diesel electric hybrids and battery electric buses out of that garage. Right now, Quincy, because of the physical limitations of the existing Quincy garage, we can really only get diesel buses in and out. So, we're excited to bring cleaner, more efficient technology to our customers in Quincy, and also this is sort of the inaugural step in our what will be a campaign that will renew all of our bus maintenance facilities, but Quincy's going to get the first one. And, we're going to make a significant commitment to both diesel electric hybrids and battery electric buses at this garage. So it's going to be a much cleaner and we think better service for our customers down here.
How do you anticipate utilizing technology going forward, Mr. Popdak, in terms of customer experience?
We've rolled out some advances. We want to continue that. We've put out e-ink signs now at many of our major bus stops, so it tells you when buses, on the specific routes, when buses are coming. One of the amazing things we were able to do in-house is about 70% of our buses have a counter on them that tells you how many people are on the bus. that technology was mainly intended for planning purposes. Our internal team was able to repurpose it. So you can now, if you look up your bus route on mbta.com or on a variety of third-party apps, including the transit app, it will actually tell you how crowded your bus is. So you can take a look, okay, the bus coming towards me is either is or is not crowded. And then if you can make the decision, if you have the luxury of time, geez, maybe it makes sense for me to wait for the next bus because that bus is less crowded. So steps like that, where we're able to communicate information to our customers, I think is incredibly important. So that's just one example. I could rattle on for an extended duration, but we really are thinking about how can we use technology to make ourselves to provide better service and to provide more information to our customers.
Yeah. I'm assuming all the COVID protocols are still in place on the MBTA.
Yes, we still have a mask. We still have a mask requirement. We are cleaning all of our facilities and vehicles, cleaning and disinfecting our facilities and vehicles once a day. We wipe down major touch points at the core subway stations every 4 hours. We have free in-house testing for all our employees. Any MBTA employee, for any reason, no questions asked, who wants to get a test can get it. And we've delivered over 6,500 tests to our employees. So that's literally one for every member of the workforce. So we've continued to emphasize all of the safety protocols, and obviously as guidance evolves from the CDC and the Department of Public Health, will evolve as well. I mean, there seems to be some thinking around what level of cleaning is needed, and as that as we get concrete guidance, we'll adjust what we're doing accordingly.
Yeah. Is the T offering or will offer their own vaccination clinics?
The states, the state, I think, pivoted at some point to a strategy where there are no employer-sponsored clinics in the state. It is solely through the network of healthcare providers, the regional collaboratives, and the mass vaccination sites. Right. So, much as we would like to, we will at this point will not be offering it to our employees. We obviously encourage all of our employees to go. We've tried to collect information and then push it back out to our employees about what's the best way to go about getting a vaccination. So I guess I would put in a plug. If there are any MBTA employees watching, please do go get vaccinated.
Oh, anything else you'd like to let folks know about right now?
It's an exciting time here at the T. We are adding back. We are rebounding to our pre-COVID service levels. In some cases, we're adding additional service. We just announced on Monday unprecedented goal next year of doing $2 billion in capital investments into the system. So that's roughly a multiple of 3 times what we were doing even 5 years ago. So we are investing in this system. We are adding back service. It is, it's an exciting time to be at the T. Obviously, folks need to make their own decisions about how and when they want to travel, but the MBTA is here, it's safe, and we're ready to serve you.
Appreciate your time. Good to talk to you, Mr. Poftak.
Great to talk to you. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.